Hello, it's Minister Deb before the throne. I started talking about Ehud in Judges 3, starting at verse 15. I had to do a part 2 because there wasn't enough time. So right now, Ehud was raised up as a deliverer for Israel. And right now he is having a private conversation with the king of the conquering nation. So we are starting on verse 20. I'll start there. And it says, and Ehud came to him, who was the king, as he was sitting alone in his cool roof chamber. And Ehud said, I have a message from God for you. And he arose from his seat. So this cool roof chamber is actually a bathroom as well as a place to just sit. So at that time, you would have the bathroom, if you could afford it, way up high on your roof because you needed gravity for there to be a drain and all the stuff to go down. So that's where they were talking. Ehud and King Eglon. And verse 21. And Ehud reached with his left hand. Remember, in the beginning, we found out that Ehud was left-handed. That means his sword was hidden on his right side as opposed to the left side, as would be for a normal person who was a military person. So and Ehud reached with his left hand, took the sword from his right thigh, and thrust it into his belly, the king's belly. So he took out his sword and he stabbed the king in the belly. And this is amazing to me. And the hilt or the handle of the sword also went in after the blade, and the fat closed over the blade, for he did not pull the sword out of his belly, and the dung came out. So remember, in the beginning of the story, we found out that King Eglon was not just fat, he was very fat. So that came into play later on down here in verse 22. So he stabs him with the knife that he made, and it goes all the way into the hilt or the handle of the sword and disappears in the king's fat. He had let go of the sword and left the sword inside the king, and the king's dung came out. We know what dung is, right? So it came out of the king's body. Verse 23. Then Ehud went out into the porch and closed the doors of the roof chamber behind him and locked them. So Ehud closes up the doors, and everybody's going to come by and think that the king is sitting on the toilet. If you're going to go to the bathroom, you're going to close the door. So Ehud closes the door so that everybody thinks he's just in the bathroom. Verse 24, when Ehud had gone, the servants came, and when they saw that the doors of the roof chamber were locked, they thought, surely he is relieving himself in the closet of the cool chamber. Surely the king is simply going to the bathroom, so we need to sit here and wait. I mean, who thought that a bathroom would be in the Bible? Who thought there would be a story about a bathroom and how the bathroom saved the life of somebody? But here it is in the Bible. Read it for yourself. Verse 25, and they waited till they were embarrassed. But when he still did not open the doors of the roof chamber, they took the key and opened them, and there lay their Lord dead on the floor. So they waited outside the door, and it was such a long time, they were thinking that he was probably going, and they needed to wait for the king to finish. Nothing was happening. Nothing was happening. It was such a long time that they were embarrassed. Then they thought, maybe we better go check on our king. And when they opened the doors, there was the king laying dead on the floor. And verse 26, Ehud escaped while they delayed, and he passed beyond the idols and escaped to Serah. So here he is, here while the men are waiting to see if the king was done going to the bathroom, Ehud was escaping. So God can take anything, any opportunity, anything at all, and use it to accomplish his purpose. In this case, he used the embarrassment of using the bathroom as a way to save the people of Israel. So Ehud could escape, and Israel would be saved from this terrible king. So I just want to say that when you are reading stories such as this one, I want to make sure I said, I don't know if I did, this starts in Judges 3, starting at verse 15 to 26. Read all of this information. God always, let me repeat that, always has a reason for adding information. In verse 15, I'm going to go back and reread that one really quick. Then the people of Israel cried out to the king, and the Lord raised up for them a deliverer, Ehud, the son of Gera, the Benjamite, a left-handed man. The people of Israel sent tribute by him to Eglon, the king of Moab. So there's some seemingly strange information for God to add in here. Why do you talk about being left-handed? Why did they talk about sending a tribute to the king? So all of these little details that are in here are in there for a reason. Left-handed people, how many men? We talked about on average, depending on who you listen to, 10% of the nation or 10% of the world is left-handed. Of that 10%, in my head, 5% are women, 5% are men. So of that 5% who are men, what percentage of them are in the military and they can make their own swords and do those kinds of things? Probably a very small percentage. So think about all of those things that are added in the Bible. Why? Why are they added? Why would he talk about left-handed? Why would he talk about a two-edged sword? Read the first, or listen to part 1. I told you about that. And then why did this very fat, why did we have to hear that the king was very fat? Not just fat, but very fat. Why did we need to hear that? Well, when Ehud stabbed him, the knife is buried to the hilt, to the handle of the sword is buried in his belly because he's so fat. So all of these details, there is a reason why God is telling you these things. Pay attention. This is a story that I just find fascinating. Do I have a great insight as to what it all means? No, not really. But if you listen to all of the different details, figure out what God is saying. Why do we need to hear these things? Why is he writing this down for everybody to read? It makes the story more interesting. It gives you insight into what is happening. It gives you many different things if we just slow down and we read the Bible. It's not a textbook. It is a love story from God to us. It is a manual on how to live our lives. It is God's heart that he is telling to us. So stop, slow down, and read it for understanding, and not just because I need my 15 minutes of Bible study every day. So thank you for listening to myself and this story of Ehud.